All right. Hi, friends. So I wanted to film a quick demo of Booleans because I heard that a few people were struggling with that concept, and you'll have to use, I guess you don't have to, but in the rubric I specified using 3 Boolean variables to validate the password. So I'm going to kind of go over Boolean variables again so that you can utilize them for lab 3. So I created this example file. I'll upload the source code after this, but basically there's this Boolean example class that I created that has a couple examples of how Booleans are used. So you can say something like int x is equal to 10, and then you can output the result of a comparison such as x is equal to 10. And when we are using Boolean comparisons, we utilize this double equal sign here. So this statement here that is enveloped in the parentheses is saying x is equal to 10, which we can see here in this comment, it will return true because the value of x is set to 10 in this variable here. Then this down here, this print statement is saying that I want to print the result of the comparison of 10 is equal to 15. So in this set of parentheses, I have my Boolean comparison saying 10 is equal to 15, which will return false because 10 is not equal to 15. So I'm going to actually comment this out so that we can run the first part without any extra output. So as you can see, as expected, this first print statement will print true for this comparison here. And this second print statement will print false because 10 is not equal to 15. So for another example, we can say something like this. I can create a Boolean variable called make food, and I initialize it to false because that's typically what you do when you initialize a Boolean variable. You call it something related to what you're checking or validating, and then you initialize it to false. And then later on, you'll set it to true if the case is satisfied. So I'm saying Boolean make food is equal to false. Then I'm asking the user, are you hungry? And I'm getting their response, storing it in this response string. And if their response equals ignore case, yes, then make food will be set to true. There's no following else after that because you don't need it. But if you wanted to be extra about it, you could say else make food is false. If it'll load, my computer is struggle busing. Okay, else make food is equal to false. But this is kind of a redundant statement because it's already been initialized to false. And this make food will only be set to true if the response is any version of yes. So I'm not going to even bother with that else. So from there, once we get the response and check, did the user enter yes or some version of yes, make food would be set to true. So if make food, this statement here, if make food is the same as saying if make food is equal to true. You can do it either way. If make food is equal to true, then I want to tell the user you should go make something to eat. Else make food would be false. So I would have the program output, you should go do your homework. So now I'm going to comment out this first part so that we don't get that extra output. And let's run this second part. So I have this prompt, are you hungry? If I type yes, it says you should go make something to eat because make food was set to true in this if statement here. If I were to rerun it and say no, it will tell me that I should go do my homework because the response was stored as no, which is not any version of yes. So make food was never set to true. It still is false. So this else down here will be executed instead of this one. So that is just a general example of Boolean variables in code, but I want to show you a little bit, kind of give you a hint of how to use them in lab 3. So here I've got basically a skeleton, but also basically like most of the code. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but basically once you get to the point in the skeleton where it says initialize booleans to check conditions for password validation, here is where I initialize those 3 variables. I give them the names is valid length, which will be set to true later on if the length of the password is greater than or equal to 7 and less than 11. And then is valid last 3 will be set to true if if the substring of the last 3 characters in my password are either ABC, XYZ, or 123. And then if that is a valid type or sequence of characters, then I can go into my switch statement and switch based on the last 3. So if the case is ABC, then I can say is valid last 3 true. And then for the last Boolean variable that I need to check is valid special. So for this particular case, if we get to this point in the program, the password is valid length is set to true. Then we get here, getting the last 3 characters of your string, and if they are ABC, XYZ, or 123, they will be set to true for the is valid last 3 variable. But within each case, there is a check for this particular special case. So is valid special will be set to true within the particular case. So for this first case, if the last 3 characters are ABC, there must be an @ symbol in the password. If there is an @ symbol in the password string, then is valid special will be set to true. And likewise, if the case for the last 3 characters is XYZ, is valid last 3 will be set to true because that is a valid suffix of a password. And as long as the 3rd character in our password is a digit, then is valid special will be set to true for this case. And lastly, if our case is 1, 2, 3, we set our is valid last 3 to true, and then we get our first 2 characters via this substring method. I'm not sure if I covered this in class, so that's why I'm showing you this part of the code. This is one way you can do this. There's a couple other ways, but this is how I did it. So I parsed the first 2 digits to an integer and stored that in a variable. And I also stored the second comparison variable in this variable called second. And if the first 2 characters, aka the character at 0 and 1, are the square root of the 3rd and 4th characters, aka the characters at indexes 2 and 3, then is valid special will be set to true for this particular case. So then that all happens, cases are set to true, and if we get to the default point, then the last 3 digits are an invalid sequence because none of these cases have been made or accepted. Um, and then that also means that our is valid last 3 is false as well as is valid special. So hopefully this helps. At the end of this switch statement, like below this purple box, you should have some more code explaining why the user's password is incorrect or invalid. If that is the case, or if it is valid, let them know that it is valid. But that was just kind of the general idea behind what I meant when I wanted you to use 3 Boolean variables to check if the password is valid. So I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will try my best to answer them over the weekend. Have a great night, and I'll see you next week.